Okay. Last year, this panel, we had, who we had? Well, Wheaton, I think, and he thought it was Sundays. So then we told him it's actually Monday. So we call Monday now Second Sunday because of Will Wheaton. Welcome to Second Sunday. Who went to the Trek party? Anybody go? All right, so we had a few people. Okay, thank you for showing up. We had a good time down there. Voltaire performed. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's Garrett. I'm on stage right now. We weren't sure where the other actors were, right? So I called the guy who's supposed to wrangle them over here. He just called me back. Anyway, welcome. One quick little plug before while I'm still here. We still have our Trek Track official t-shirts. So I'm wearing one of them. If you guys don't know, this is 25 years of all good things. And in the background is the Enterprise from Next Gen. And our second shirt, 25th anniversary of TNG. The 25 and the TNG are made up of the character names and also the actors' real names on there. So these shirts can be found over at the Cosmic City booth at the bottom of the Marriott, bottom level of the Marriott, booth number C13. So right near the door, go in, make a right, quick left, and it's right there on the left. Please pick up a shirt, support Trek Trek. Thank you. All right, without further ado, let's bring our guests out for this second Sunday. Whoever's still left from the Trek world, let's start off with from Enterprise, Connor Trinneer. On his phone, Connor Trinneer.
I'm on stage. All right.
Oh my Lord. Okay, next up from TNG, Michael Dorn. And last but not least, the lovely Nichelle Nichols.
Stand in the presence of royalty.
Nice. Thanks for still being here, guys. I like the mashup like this. I like when we have all the different shows together. It's kind of nice. Yeah? All right. Goodness gracious, we have a pretty good crowd here, actually, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Okay, so as usual, we have a microphone in the center, so if people do have questions, they can come over and line up in the middle, but just sit down so that people don't see the back of your head the whole time. Thank you.
I'm a person with the hat's lap. Sit on the lap. Sit down.
Oh, yes, I did. Alrighty.
Early for this.
It is a little early for this. My goodness, I was up so late. I asked my assistant, I was like, is it possible that they could bring me to the panel on a stretcher? I'll just do the whole panel on a stretcher. But, nope.
Hey, Garrett,
Yes, sir.
I have a question
Yes.
for Connor.
Oh, go, Connor.
What did you think, or what was your thoughts when you got the job on Enterprise? I mean, were you like a fan of the show? Or did you think, wow, you know, or you know, what were your initial thoughts?
You're absolutely right.
No, my Nichelle, I was looking for something a little more ethereal. That sense.
Basic is very ethereal.
I'd gotten to know Star Trek through the original series, obviously, and so when I got the job, the first thing I found out that we were shooting a pilot, which was kind of remarkable to me by itself, which was, no, you're just going to work. And when my agent said that I'd won the lottery for that year's pilot season, I didn't know what he meant. And the other thing was is that when I got the job, I thought that, you know, I'm Scotty. I may work 2 days a week. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to have a great time. Then I opened the pilot script and I was all through it and I thought, oh no. You better put your hat on. You're going to work, kid. And then the rest of all this was just something that I could never have imagined. Really, honestly, never imagined. But yeah, when I first got the job, I think I was a little scared because, well, you know, all that had gone before me. And there was a lot of responsibility there that was just kind of on your shoulders out of the gate. And being a preacher.
Yeah.
Michael, can you answer your question?
It was interesting. I was a big fan of the original show, and so I had called my agents when I heard they were doing Next Generation, and I said, look, I'd like to really read this. Would you do anything? They called back, and I said, no, I'm sorry, it's already cast. Done. We'll call you and, you know, let you know. You know how it is. When they say that, you go, yeah, right, I'll see you later. And at that time in my career, I was doing, you know, fairly well. I was working, I was, you know, guest spots in a lot of different shows, and so it was just another audition. And so when they said they called 2 weeks later and said they want you for a part of the Klingon, I'm like, cool. Because I love Klingons, and when it happened. Interestingly enough, one of the first assistant director on our show, Les Landau, said that when I got the news, he could see my whole life change right in front of him. And, you know, it was very interesting how it happened too, because I went in for a couple of auditions, and the last audition there was down to 3 of us who all did 2 auditions that day. All together, and one of us, you know, and said, okay, thank you guys, we'll let you know. And we leave, and the guy said, Michael, could you, this is good one, said, Michael, could you wait? You know, we have a video that you know, one of your reels that you left, you know, we want to give it to you. And I didn't think anything about it. I'm going, okay. And they told me that day. And it was just like, you know, different. But it wasn't so much about, like you were saying, it wasn't so much about, oh, Star Trek, it was like a cool job. You got a job, you got a pilot, you're going to make some money, at least for maybe a couple of months, you know? Seriously, it was like, cool, I can relax for about 4 or 5 months, you know, and then I'll go back to, you know, trying to work.
Nichelle, could you talk about your experience when you got cast? When you got cast, your original? Yeah. How about this? I'll help you through here. How many auditions did you have?
The original series. I think that at first I never believed it until it's, you know, you're on screen and they didn't say, well, it didn't go by, you didn't pass. But there was an excitement about it because the role was so lovely, and I was working with majority of good people.
Very well said. Very well said. I would not pull punches like that. I'm not blunt. I love that.
But it's true. And the first year was absolutely glorious. So the first season was absolutely glorious. And then you saw changes in people and attitudes, you know. And so forth. And I never understood that. I'm going like, what happened? and when people change like that, I always think you're going to get one of those things that said, the show is over. You know, they think it's bad news. But we were all excited about the same thing, the success of the show and the characters and being part of it, and your character and how it related. At that first year was glorious, you know how that is, because everybody's into their thing and giving the buzz and into relating to each other. And so for me, it was wonderful, and I refuse to let it be anything else but that. You know, that's my part. and to give my just if anything got different, I excuse myself and have to go to the ladies' room. And that's how I handled that. It wound up being a good choice.
I love that. There was one scene I just loved it, where William Marshall was Dyson. And he was on the ship, and he was did the computers, and he was kind of full of himself.
Yes.
The character.
He created the character.
Oh, he created this character, and he said something to Kirk like, well, we don't need you, or something like that. And you looked at him. You turned around and you went. Looked at it. And it was just brilliant. I thought it was just very funny. I mean, those moments of that original show, we just...
Nichelle would have laughed, but Uhura wouldn't.
Well put, yes. I just want to thank you from being an actor of color, for being such a groundbreaker in terms of being in a role that was non-stereotypical, really. I mean, that was so...
Gene Roddenberry. He was so determined with that first show that it was going to be groundbreaking. It was not going to be stereotypical. It was not going to be the guys had it, And there was much opposition to that in the front office, from the side office, from some of the characters who thought, differently. But he carried it through. He was determined, and that's why you got the first cast. Women and men who played as equals and not forced. And I think that was something that you could really thank Gene Roddenberry for, because that's what he intended to do. It was no accident. And that's why everything else that came behind it had the same uplifting kind of. I fell in love with every one of the shows. I wanted also to be on all of them. Uhura was busy. Alien frequencies. So what does the audience want to know?
Let's see. What does the audience want to know?
Yes.
Question number one.
Hello.
Hello.
This is I'd love to hear from everybody, since we have several, different ethnic groups, but mostly from Nichelle. Over the past few months, and most recently the last few weeks, some very highly publicized incidents showing how far we have yet to go to achieve Gene's vision of both racial and gender equality. What are your thoughts on how we can keep it moving forward and maybe not losing ground, as it seems like we might actually be doing lately?
Thank you. I'm not sure that I understood the first part of it. Did you?
Oh, just the idea that, because of the last things that happened in the last few months about the, election, you're talking about the election and all the red state and blue states.
Not just that, but mostly about some of the more publicized racial incidents and gender incidents that shows we
How could we move
how can we
forward?
keep it going forward
Oh, politically?
to keep Gene's vision of getting more equality and maintaining it.
Are we talking about the TV show or are we talking about politics?
Politics mostly, since you were involved in the civil rights movement. And so how can we keep that going?
Oh, you just don't accept less than what's right.
And also try to convert all your non-Trek friends to Trek fans. Just convert everyone in the world to Trek fans. That's all you gotta do.
I think it's also a matter of constant mindful behavior. Being mindful of what the world is like and what you can do in it. And I think it's something that you have to stay on top of at all times because there's always going to be the threat. I mean, it is a threat of inequality. It can be interracial inequality. It can be racial inequality. It can be gender inequality. What happened? It happens all over the world at all times. I mean, it's mindfulness on each person's part.
And it's you're so right, and it's very easy for egos to, your own personal ego to start rising. And you really are not your I, you're that character, and that character has a relationship with other characters, and you got to keep it real, so you have to get your inflated nothingness out of the way.
And you got to get them when they're young. You got to get them when they're young. I mean, bullying is a part of this too. It's the catchphrase these days, but it's true. You instill in them this sort of notion about people very, very young, and it's your responsibility as an adult to do it too. So it's always be mindful.
I like Michelle's term, get your inflated nothingness out of the way. I'm going to use that. Get your inflated nothingness out of the way.
As a fan, I would like to thank you all for putting up with the makeup, putting up with the reading, with putting up with the attitudes, with putting up with everything
The inflated nothingness.
that was somewhat of a barrier, and you guys busted through it, and I appreciate it. And as a fan, I thank you all.
Well, if you just put up
That's pretty much what I wanted to say, but I do have a question. I liked your answer to one particular thing, Mr. Dorn, that you considered it a job. You didn't consider it lifetime. You considered it something that you were doing right now because this is the present and the future has nothing to offer right now. I would like to get your opinions as far as when you got a slot for an acting job. How did you control yourself to the point to where it was just a job and not get to the point to where your ego was here?
That's a very good question. I was fortunate and to get it wasn't a big job, but it was a job where I was able to see what the business was really like early on. And it taught me very, very good lessons about what the business is about. It's not malicious, but it's just a business. And you have to look at it that way. And so I was fortunate enough to go through that early without too much, problems. And so after that, instead of getting bitter about the business, I went, oh, that's how it works. I see. Okay, I got it, And so, and that taught me that you can't worry about nothing else except, doing your work and being as good as you can. Not that person being good or that person being bad. I don't know, because it really comes down to you. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
So I was fortunate.
and you, it's a job job, but you still have to honor the fact that you're lucky enough to be working in an art form and to work on the art of being someone that you aren't, you know, to be in a situation to make that live, and that's the artist's job. That's our biggest job, is to make it real. You know, take the character, find the character, and climb inside the character, and make the circumstances real to you and relate to them. And then you're an actor.
Also, I think the ego is a big part of it, because,
It's a wonderful part.
It can be, but for the most part, no. I gotta disagree with you. I think it's a part, but a wonderful part. No, I think it's the ego it can stand in the way of a lot of things, and one of the things is that what we do is wonderful. I mean, it is a great job, but is it a hard job?
Well,
I mean, I think, giving birth is a hard job. People have told me. My mother. Oh, Michael. Giving birth to you, oh my God. Anyway.
You also have to understand something, though, that, you get some thick skin pretty quickly unless something ridiculous happens to you out of the gate. That 9 times out of 10, and 2 of these 10 you think you're perfect for, you never hear from them again.
No.
And the one that you wind up getting, I would have bet my house on that I wasn't going to get the character of Trip on Enterprise.
Isn't that funny?
I punted those first auditions. I just did very poorly. So having said that, there's this ego confidence, which way it's going to lie. It's kind of a delicate balance, that one. But you have to remember that you cannot walk into a room and not think that you're the guy or the gal for that job. Because, well, you won't be if you don't think that. Even if you walk in there and punt, you still walk in there with that, you got to have a little bit of swagger, but not so much that people find you annoying.
Absolutely.
I think getting an acting job is really about not showing any type of desperation. It's almost like, it's almost like when you're trying to court somebody, in a dating world. And the minute they smell the desperation, they're out the door, So it's keeping that at bay, really, with the measure of walking that fine line of confidence.
Yes.
Well, I thought desperation worked really well.
No, that's a cologne you don't want to put on. Yeah. Please hire me. Next question, yes.
Yeah, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Garrett, you need to know that someone turned your poster upside down over in the Walk of Fame.
Really?
Yeah, I was sad for you. But
But you know what? It was probably Frakes or LeVar. After the abuse I got on that panel.
But doesn't that mean some kind of revolution or some kind of, like when they turn the flag upside down, doesn't that mean that
The revolution begins.
You've gone rogue?
I've gone rogue. I have.
well, Michael, I'm glad to see you made it on time.
Did you turn that upside down?
I did not turn Garrett's poster upside down. I was there at 9:50 and it was upside down when I got there. Somebody snuck in.
Okay. Did you guys have any idea that when you were doing these characters and doing the shows and all, that it would really grow into what it is today? I mean, it really altered the timeline on Earth. I think it was such a great back. Look at these people and the money we all spent dragging on these hotels and businesses that are thriving on our being here, and the idea that people had thoughts, and there's been science exhibits or museums created around the show to educate people and all that. Did you have an idea it would become such a worldwide phenomenon, and that you really did change a timeline. I think you changed the course of time on where we were headed, and for it to veer off and have so many people, like all of us here, want to take up Gene's vision and try to live the right way and continue to explore space and pursue education and all.
Our show tried to stop that. We tried to stop the timeline. We succeeded to this point, so we won.
In all honesty, I saw the first script, I knew Gene Roddenberry, and I knew what he had in mind, and he was up against an impossible wall. He must be crazy, he's going to do an interracial cast. And he put it, and he couldn't sell his idea until he put it in. Somebody said to him at one of the studios, heads of one of the studios, who was a friend of his, and he had this script, and he wanted Star Trek, you know, but it wasn't Star Trek then, and they said, Gene, I love you, man, but you've got this interracial script. You've got women as equals. I mean, you know, I can't sell it. And one of his friends, it was that 20th century, took it, and he said, Gene, maybe in 300 years, Hollywood, except for Gene looked at him and said, thank you. And he went home and wrote Star Trek and sold it almost immediately because it was futuristic. And he was unable to sell it as you could sell something today, you know. But it was so far ahead of its time, he had to set it in the future by 20th. I bless him all the time because there would have been no Star Trek.
Well, thank you for what you've done and what you've given to America and the world. I think we all have a better vision. It inspired me to go to work for NASA, and I'm doing work for them now to pursue Gene's dream.
I'm still doing work with NASA, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad to see it. Really, you're a fellow employee. Again, thank you for what you've done and changed the world. If any of the rest of you would like to add in what, if you think would ever have this effect, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, as actors, usually, unless you're shooting a sitcom, the set is a closed set, so we don't really know if people are watching. You know, we're not working to the Nielsen numbers, so we have no clue. And the first time that I realized the overall scope of how popular Star Trek was really my first convention. You know, it was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Star Trek Voyager premiered on Monday in January of 1995. And that Saturday, I was called to fill in for Kate Mulgrew. So I flew to Minneapolis to this convention, which I thought would be a kind of like a living room with maybe 20, 30 people. You know, I would just be, you know, reminiscing about my childhood and what I ate for breakfast. And so I just remember I was standing outside the double doors, and I hear the announcer go, "And now, put your hands together for Garrett Wang, Ensign Captain of Star Trek Voyager." They open up the doors, I walk in, and there's over 5,000 people in that room. And I immediately, my entire body started just shaking. You know, I was just like, just uncontrollable shaking, because it just completely blew me away how large the fandom was just in the United States. That's not even counting all the other countries that we've been to, right? I mean, we've all been to England, Australia. Hello, English people. You remember in Galaxy Quest when they're at the convention and they're announcing Alan Rickman's character and they're like, "He's British!" Like that.
And the British are amazing about Star Trek, you know, they take it as their own, yeah. Love going.
Next question, please.
Hi, first a statement to Nichelle. I remember the first time that I saw Star Trek. I didn't know anything about it. I walked into my aunt's bedroom and the first thing I saw was you on the screen, and it just stopped me, and I was like, oh my God, that's a really pretty lady. And then I found out, oh, she's smart and pretty.
And she's brown and smart.
And the next thing I want to ask Michael is, do you think it's possible that you'll do any more Torn Girls on Castle?
Oh, on Castle, I think I was too good as a psychiatrist because I think I've cured her. I don't think so. They've already done 8 episodes this year already. And I think it's, maybe I'll do 1, possibly, but I don't think so. I think that's it. But no, it was actually, I had a great time doing it. I thought it was really cool.
I'm going to pray.
Well, thank you very much.
I want to thank all of you as well for changing my life as well as the world. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Next question, please.
This one is for Ms. Nichols. Could you tell us the story again about the time that you were going to resign, but your greatest Star Trek fan, Dr. Martin Luther King, talked about it?
Thank you. Are you leaving? I'll save the good part when you get back.
Somebody has to go make pee-pee.
I'm not going anywhere.
We're here.
I
Could you please relate that story?
made water before I got
I
on stage.
can't believe I tell this story. So I've been asked to tell this story so many times. But what was the question?
Just if you would, please.
Oh, Dr. King. I first preface it with saying that my first love was the theater, and I grew up in theater, and I dreamed of becoming famous for my great work on Broadway. I'm still planning to do that. I got into television kind of by the back door, but suddenly there was Gene Roddenberry with this role, and I got into Star Trek. And something amazing was happening about it, the show, for the masses watching, that I wasn't cognizant of. I was busy doing my role, and this is, before it went on the air, then after it went on the air, it was as exciting as I thought it was going to be, and as successful as I thought it was going to be, but not to the depth that it suddenly was, and that became an exciting thing for me. And you were getting fan mail and so forth. And I thought after the first year the show was so popular, I could now, and I was getting some offers, toward Broadway. And that's what I was going to do. I was planning on leaving the show after the first season. It so happened that I was at a NAACP big fundraiser in Beverly Hills on weekend night, on a Saturday night, and someone came over to me and said, and I was on the dais, they have the guest stars on the dais, and so I had just seated myself, everyone else hadn't come. And one of the promoters came over to me and he said, Miss Nichols, there's someone who wants to meet you. He says he's your greatest fan. And for some reason, I thought a little kid, you know. And I said, oh, certainly. And I turned around, and there is this man standing across the room from me, walking over toward me. And I said, whoever that little fan is going to have to wait, because that's Dr. Martin Luther King. And so help me, he had this big smile on me because I registered, you know. And he said, yes, Miss Nichols, I am your biggest fan. And we were talking nicely, and I was just so thrilled, you know, because as far as I was concerned, this was my leader. And they're going through the marches every day on television. You could see what black people were going through in the South and so forth, and how they were marching ahead. And there was Dr. King all the time, you know, doing this thing. And so I was trembling as he came toward me. My God, I'm going to meet this giant, not knowing that that's who they were talking about, that told me wanted to meet me. So he came and he had this big smile on his face, and he said, yes, Ms. Nichols, I am your greatest fan. And I said, oh, that deep. Dr. Thank you. And that was my meeting with him, and we had a great conversation when he told me all the things that he thought that I had put into the character of Uhura and in my role, and that it was very important. How very important. And then I got serious, because this is, you know, was really the leader of the world. All over, people looking up to this man. And he is telling me how this man's Gene Roddenberry had created something so important for the world, because it's the first television series that had men and women as equals, and equals on a basis that young people and all people could look to and feel proud of and aspire to. And I recall saying to him, I thank you so much, Dr. King. I'm going to miss my co-stars, but I'm so glad. He said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I just told Gene Roddenberry I got an offer on Broadway, and I believe I'm going in this, which is my first love. This is what I intended to say, but I never got that far. He said, you cannot do that. And I said, what you talking about, Dr. Martin? No, I didn't, for the world. I always tell that story because I wish that I had the guts to say that. But he said, don't you know what this man is giving to the world? He is changing the face of television, and he is changing minds all over the world. One day, we will be gathered all over, not just black or just white or men or with women. We will be about one thing, and that is what is right in this world for all humankind. That is what he has given, and that is why you have to stay on there, because he started with this series to make that statement. And in 20 years, 30 years, this show will still be as important now, and shows like it. will be as important, even more so. And he said I couldn't leave the show, and I didn't. I'm really grateful. And thank you for this message.
Next question.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I'm flying professionally, and my question is for Mr. Dorn. I was curious if you talked about a little bit about your flying, and maybe when you got your license, and maybe about a recent experience you had while you were flying, the aircraft you like to fly.
Well, I don't know if there's any pilots in the room, but about flying. Because I fly. No, I was very fortunate because I always wanted to fly my whole life. My mother was very funny. When I started to fly, she goes, "I don't understand why you want to fly, Michael. It's just a fad." And I said, "Mom, when I was 3 years old, I was in the hospital. What was my favorite toy? Oh, that helicopter you used to run along the ground, and So I always wanted to do it. And to make a long story short, different over the years. I had a kind of opportunities, but never opportunity. But then the second season of Next Generation, they had a writer's strike. And so we had 5 months of nothing to do, basically. And I worked with the previous year, so I had a little money saved and all that. And I said, there's a guy named Greg Goodson who worked on the show. I said, Michael, you've got to do this because you love it. We talk about it all the time. And I went out there. I was telling Connor that I went out there for my introductory flight. And from that moment on, I was hooked. I was really, really hooked. And then, luckily, one year, I think it was 92, I get a call from one of the producers over at Cheers, because Woody Harrelson was supposed to fly with the Blue Angels, and he couldn't. He bailed at the last minute, and they were just scrambling, and they knew that I flew, and so they called up and said, "Would you like to go fly with the Blue Angels?" Huh? And that was, so I went down to El Centro in California and flew with him, and it was spectacular. It was just spectacular, and I love the military, I love all the stuff. And so subsequently, because the fighter pilot community is such a small community within the services, they've learned, he flew and he's a pilot, and the military loved Star Trek, absolutely loved it. So they always would invite me. Like almost every month I get an invitation. And they'd always say the same thing. They said, "Look, we'd love you to come down and talk to the troops and sign autographs and attend these things that they were doing, and mess nights and things like that." They said, "But we can't pay you, but we can give you a flight and something." And a flight, a ride in some airplane that they were flying at these bases. And I said, "Well, what do you got?" And everything from dogfighting to 2v2, which is 2 airplanes against 2 other airplanes in F-16s, which was great in mid-air refueling, and then took a ride, a low-level flight as the aircraft pilot, the left seat in the B-1 bomber, and F-18s with the Canadian Air Force. And finally, they said, "Would you like to go on an F-18 on an aircraft carrier and do the cat shots and all the stuff like Top Gun?" And after that, it was pretty amazing, but a great story. I knew the guy that was the pilot, so we took off from Central California, and we were flying down to San Diego, which is about, probably 200 miles or something like that, maybe 3. And on the way down, I'm in the back seat and I'm flying, and I'm all over the sky. And he's going, "Michael, you can't do that. You've got to fly straight and level because I'm up here in the front and it's my ass." And I go, "Okay," and I'm still going too fast and I'm, doing stuff. And so we go down there, and it was all afternoon, cat shots, and 4 or 5 times, and then we had lunch, and then he said, "Would you like to stay for night operations, for night carrier landings?" And I said, "Not on your life." And we took off. He said, "Okay, we're heading back to Central California." So we took off, and He says, okay, you've got the airplane. And I'm flying in the backseat, and I'm good. I'm flying, I'm holding altitude and airspeed, and it's just beautiful. I'm going, oh man, I can do this all day. I am really ego. I'm going, yeah. And then one time I went, I moved the stick and nothing happened. I said, Brian, what did you do? And he says, I'm sorry, Michael, I just couldn't take it anymore. And from the front seat, you can cut off the back seat. So, for an hour. I can't believe it. I said, I don't believe you. He said, Michael, I just couldn't take it anymore, And it was hilarious. But it was probably I can't tell you like the best time. I mean, they've all been spectacular. But the interesting part, the best part, was when I was on the aircraft carrier, I went down and signed autographs on the hangar deck, which is below there, for all the guys that are working on the airplanes and all the troops, basically. And it really gave me an idea about how hard these poor guys are working. Men and women out there, 16 hours a day, working like crazy. I mean, like really hard work. And they're like the backbone of the military. And so from that moment on, I started doing more just for the troops and just for the people, not just the... I had a great flying career in the military. So that's great. Anyway, thank you.
Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Josephine. And before I ask my question, I want to say is, Nichelle, you sound like my friend. Sorry. Nichelle, you sound like my grandmother a little bit. I'm very happy that I get to hear your voice because it reminds me of my grandmother. Now, my question is for everyone. What books are you currently reading and what are your favorites?
I'm reading a book by a friend of mine. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I've got it upstairs. I brought it with me. But it's a wonderful, wonderful. I like novels, and I like reality. I like history. So, if it's true and it's well written, I really like it. But I like novels because the imagination can go beyond reality. And then reality is then established because once you think it, it's a fact, and just a matter of working on it.
Michael. Oh, okay. I just finished
Yes, thank you.
Obama's book, which was very interesting. And I'm reading another one about, it's about Obama, but it's about the promise. I think it was the guy who wrote it said saying that
You're winning.
You're right. Anyway, while you get that, Connor, what book?
I try to read 2 books at a time, sort of trade off. I'm just almost at the end of Nabokov's Invitation to a Beheading. It's not as maudlin as it sounds. It's a wonderful book. And I also, we're moving now, and we packed away we've got a house full of books, and we packed away the big books, and I came across this book from a Native American writer. The book's called The Death of Jim Loney, which is turning out to be quite an awesome book. And the best book I've read so far this year, however, is The Art of Fielding. I don't know if any of you read that book. It's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah.
The Art of Feeling? The Art of Feeling?
The Art of Fielding, like fielding baseball. Fantastic book.
I'm reading a book called The War Room, which is an insider's view behind-the-scenes view of the New England Patriots when Bill Belichick started coaching for there. So, thank you for your question.
Thank you. You have a fantastic day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question. Tilt that microphone down. There you go. Just jump when you do your question.
Did you enjoy watching Star Trek when you were a kid?
Yep. I'd get home every day from school, and I'm sorry, they were reruns. I'd get home every day from school, and at 3 o'clock would be the original series of Star Trek, and then after that would be Perry Mason. And so that was my afternoon. And interestingly, my brother and his two friends would watch the episode, and then the next day, while I was playing wiffle ball and beat each other up in the middle of the playground, my brother and his friends would walk the perimeter of the playground and talk about the previous day's episode of Star Trek. So when I got this job, he's the first one I called, thinking that he was going to be mightily impressed. Having not had children yet, I didn't realize that once you have kids, it's really hard to impress somebody. So when I called him up and I was like, hey man, listen, I just got the new Star Trek series. He's like, stop touching her. Dave, I gotta go. I'm sorry. Congratulations.